Welcome back, everyone. Right on time with the first session, with the first real content session after the keynote. And this session is divided, as I mentioned, divided in two parts. And first we'll be talking about, now zooming in, talking about Germany and India and the lack of talent here in Germany. And I'll be talking for the next 20 to 30 minutes with Anine Linder, the project lead of the project Hand in Hand International. She's working at the DIHK, also here in Berlin. And then afterwards, we'll talk to Sukanya Pal right away in the same session, so there won't be any break, with Sukanya Pal, a tech recruiter here at Gorillas in Berlin. So really looking at the issue of recruitment or the lack of talent from two different angles. So, but let's get right away into the first session. Hi, good morning, Anine. How are you?
Thanks for the invitation. I'm glad to be here today.
Wonderful. So thank you so much for joining. Now, I'm sure you also listened to the keynote that we had. We were talking more about the virtual world and everything, but now talking about Germany from the German perspective, we call it Fachkräftemangel in Germany, so the lack of talent. So I really want to know, how bad is the situation in your eyes?
Well, actually, the head of the German Employment Agency said in the beginning of the year, our biggest problem is not unemployment, but really the demographic development, the lack of talents we will be facing in the next 2 years, and which we are already facing today. So another interview that he gave in August, for example, stated that we actually need 400,000 immigrants a year to actually face this lack of talents we do have in Germany. So I think that's quite a number.
And for us working in the Indo-German space, of course, it's evident, it's obvious that we think, well, isn't it obvious that there's so much great talent in India? So where is the problem? So we need to do something more. We need to bridge it. But what particular skills are in demand?
It's a lot of skills that are in demand. I think, which everybody probably is aware of, is the area of care and healthcare, but also the areas of logistics, IT, electronics, and as we state now, also the area of hotels and gastronomic service. So the whole tourism industry really does need a lot of talents.
Okay. Yeah, I'm referring also to the presentation, to the keynote, because there, Daniel from Indeed also said, like, or the top, what was it? There were 35,000 searches on the Indeed platform from India looking for jobs in Germany. And he outlined the top, what was it, top 15 or top 20 keywords that were looked for. And I think exclusively everything was there focusing on IT, on product manager, on data scientists. I think the only non-IT related thing was looking for English, so that might hint to the fact that well, Germany is German speaking. So, but you're mentioning now a few other ones, so it goes beyond the IT skilled labors, right?
Definitely. I mean, really, one of I will be talking about our project a little bit later on, but really, we are focusing in the project. We are focusing on the areas of IT, electronics, but also really gastronomy. So the whole tourism sector, which is really one of the areas where most skilled labor is needed. So that's basically a lot more than just IT.
And I just read in the newspaper that it's also getting worse now in the pandemic, because now that all the bars and cafes are opening up again, they are in dire need of service personnel over there, right?
Yeah, that's really also our experience within the project. We have a lot of restaurants, hotels asking for skilled labor. So that is really something that has gotten even worse in the pandemic. because also the whole tourism sector is developing to more tourism within Germany. So actually the hotels in the north of Germany are quite in need of skilled labor. It has been that way also before the pandemic, but I think it really has gotten worse within the pandemic, because also a lot of people who had been working in the hotels and restaurants, German people, now moved to other areas because as the hotels had the lockdown and the restaurants couldn't open up, really, yeah, people looked for something else, and now the hotels and restaurants are in dire need of people working there.
Okay, interesting, because usually in the startup context, we're just addressing, or we're just focusing, or that is what we know about, that it's usually IT related roles, right? But now let's talk a little about the background of the IHK. The IHK, I think, is known. It's the head, basically, or head organization of the IHK, of the chambers, the chambers of commerce in Germany, and they've launched a project called Hand in Hand International. So now let's talk a little about this. So what is the project about? I mean, we know that it's addressing exactly the issue of lack of talents here. But can you share a little bit about that project? I think you're mute.
Sorry for that. No. So it's a project that is commissioned by the German federal government. Actually, it's financed by the German Ministry of Economic Affairs, and we realized the project in cooperation with the German Federal Employment Agency. And really the aim of the project is to bring to life, so to say, to develop a project for the German Skilled Migration Act. That's the law that became law in March last year. And the project really aims at, the law really aims at more effective migration and to allow more migration within Germany. So that is, the project really tries to develop a process that brings to life this Migration Act. And we are a pilot project, so we focus on a few countries. These are 3 countries we're focusing on. India is one of them, and also the other 2 are Brazil and Vietnam. And we have 5 regions within Germany which we are focusing on. So the companies from these 5 regions can be part of the project and actually find skilled labor via the project.
Okay, so basically it's a reaction to the new policy that came into place, and now to put the policy, well, to have some practical results also, the project was launched to facilitate on those lines. And you mentioned then companies can be part of it. So how does it work? Who is it really addressing? Is it addressing companies or the job seekers directly? And then companies in Germany that are reaching out to any of the 5 countries that are now part of it, or how does it actually work?
So we're addressing both employees and companies, but really the focus is on German companies who are looking for skilled labor forces in these 3 areas I mentioned before, which is IT, electronics, and the tourism sector. So we, in these 5 regions within Germany, our colleagues at the Chambers of Commerce and Industry and at the German Federal Agency, they look for employers who are in need of skilled labor. And at the same time, our colleagues in the other countries are looking for skilled labor forces who want to migrate to Germany. So we actually bring them together within the project. And we have a holistic approach that's not only recruiting, but we really handhold everyone through the entire process. Also the visa process, the recognition of the diploma, the language qualification, and really we only stop when the people are here and integration is kind of done, or at least the first 3 months within the company in Germany. We really are in very close contact with everyone.
Okay, now particularly about India, the companies that have joined that program now from Germany, what kind of roles are they looking for? What kind of candidates are they looking for?
We have companies, as I mentioned, who are really in dire need of labor in the tourism sector, that is hotels and restaurants. But we also have other companies who are looking, for example, for electronics and communication engineering, or information and communication technical system management, like really people who have diplomas in that kind of area.
Okay, and is it matching with the candidates in India that are reaching out to you?
It is matching, though I must say it's a bit tricky because it's very common in India to have academic education, and the skilled labors we are looking into are really non-academic people, because that's really the aim of the project. So we do look for people with a state recognized qualification, but with a diploma or ATS certificate. So that's sometimes a bit hard to find, because the vocational the vocational training in Germany is quite unique. So it's a bit hard to really match those needs with the education we find in India. But it is possible, and we do have people who really fit. But it's a project that we're still really, in the process of seeing, do we have to change anything? Do we need we're a pilot project, so we're actually looking into that, if it's maybe needed to focus on other diploma, or to match these needs.
Absolutely. As a pilot project, you always have to try out and see what works and what doesn't work. And actually, a pilot project is also really important to identify the challenges, right, in order to address them and overcome them. Absolutely. IGSW, we're also piloting many things. You're always trying out certain things, and some work better, some work less good. Then, so is there point of contact for the job seekers in India? How do you reach out to them, or do they know about you? Does it go through the Indo-German Chamber of Commerce, or how does it actually work?
Yeah, they do have a direct point of contact, which is my colleague Denise Eichhorn, who is working at the German Chamber of Commerce abroad in India. So that is really the point of contact, and all the questions that should be there. She will be ready to answer. She will also be there in the afternoon today. So she will have a table at networking. So everyone who has questions or doubts or wants to know more about the project really can connect to her.
Okay, great. So people can directly reach out to Denise at the networking table later on in the afternoon or evening in India. That is really helpful. And besides that, they should reach out to Denise directly through the website, or do you promote it in India through certain partners, or how does it work?
Yeah, I think the website of the German Chamber of Commerce abroad in India is really the place to go. But we do have different. We have social networks where we talk about the project. But really Denise is the direct point of contact. She can answer our questions, and also the application to be part of the project is done directly via the website.
Okay, wonderful. And for the applicants themselves, if you said with the qualifications, or actually the recognition of the certificates of the that they're holding, that is an issue. Is there, so they need to approach Denise in order to find out whether the education that they have is recognized, or is there a chance for them to understand before that already, well, I'm eligible or not, or I would need something else? So I can imagine that if everyone reaches out to Denise, her inbox is swamped with emails. So to filter there a little bit, what can you tell to the applicants or to the job seekers? What is enough? What is sufficient for them to reach out in terms of qualification, or what is something they need to look into first?
Yeah, so I think the most important thing is really you need a state-recognized professional qualification. You do find that information also on the website, and we do have a list on the website about the diplomas or the qualification we're really looking for, which is diploma in electronics and communication, as I said before, or in computer technology. So you find a list of professions we are looking for in the website, but really the most important thing is that it's state recognized, as I mentioned, and you should have at least 2 years of professional experience in this profession. That is important for the recognition of the diploma, because that's something that's also done within the project. We do have, as an official partner, the place where you really recognize your diploma. So that is basically the thing you need to have, that is state recognized, so you can do the recognition in Germany.
Okay, and state recognized is, of course, recognized by the Indian states, right?
Yeah,
because
that's right.
Not all of them might be recognized here, but this is the prerequisite, of course. Okay, note.
No, but they will be recognized here during the project.
Okay, and particularly the roles that you mentioned, that sounds to me that the German language would be really important, right? If you are in the tourism sector, to speak, to address the Germans, to communicate with them. I think the German language, that will be also, it's not the first time we'll be addressing, or it's not the last time we'll be addressing it today, because it's one of the main challenges, if at least that's in my experience. But can you say something about that? Because I assume that the average applicant, the average job seeker that is approaching you does not have a, let's say, B1 or B2 Max Müller-Bawan certificate to provide already.
Yeah, that's right. And you do need a B1 certificate to actually migrate to Germany via the German Skilled Migration Act. So that is something we are financing within the project. Whoever is part of the project, who's chosen to be part of the project, within the project gets a language qualification up to level B1. So you actually don't need German to participate in the project. But I must say, really, this is one of the key points we do find in our, is one of our findings so far, how important the language really is. That is something that the companies are really looking into. Actually, most companies actually expect people to be able to speak German when they do the interviews. We do have interpreters for the interviews, so that wouldn't be something needed, but we really find that the companies expect at least a little bit of knowledge of German. So what we're doing now is really starting the German courses within the project before the interviews. So you're already able to speak a little bit German in the job interviews. Plus we do have the interpreters. And also after you come to Germany, at least within our project, there's another course, B2 course, which we really recommend doing, because most companies really ask for the level B2. They say it's just, the situation is a bit different in IT, because there are a lot of companies also really, where the working language is English, but especially in electronics and the tourism sector, German is a must.
Yeah, is it also I can imagine even B1 is quite a level for us native speakers. Well, we're never in this situation to learn German, but whoever I speak to who is learning German, well, it's quite a challenge. And Indians in particular are very gifted when it comes to languages, but still it is not a simple language. It's more complex than, let's say, learning the English language. One can simply tell if a foreigner is written who has learned German, if that person is writing an email in German, you can tell right away, right? Because German is more complex than English in that sense. Isn't it also a matter of expectation management among the companies? If I just imagine that a German company approaches you, says like, we're expecting B1 or B2 and expect the interview to go in German, well, who would be able to provide that? And maybe someone who speaks well German hasn't learned anything else because that person has, let's say, only studied German and doesn't bring the qualification to the other place. Is that also a challenge there?
Definitely. That's something we have been really looking into, the expectation management. So we developed quite a lot of material around all this, because this levels of language. What does B1 really mean? You're not able to speak about your profession on the level of B1, and nobody should expect that. So expectation management via the companies really is one thing, but I think we still do have that culture in Germany that most people expect other people or the employee in the company to speak German. So I think that might be also something that maybe will change in the next few years when the lack of talents has still gotten worse. So we might see a bit more flexibility there. But still, now it's really a question of expectation management. Also, of course, the preparation of the candidates, just at least sometimes it's enough to at least have a few sentences prepared in the interview, because of course the focus should be on the training and not only on the language knowledge.
So, well, absolutely. That is also similar to what we at IGSW find out. On the one hand, you have this, we need skilled labor over here. On the other hand, the really educated Indian applicants say like, well, I've worked a lot, but I'm sorry, I didn't have time to study German full time. And even if you study German full time for a year, it might throw you back in terms of your further professional growth in your actual role. So it is quite a challenge. So for me, sometimes the question is, well, who shall we address, with the not expectation management, but also is it a certain change of mindset that we need here in Germany, that if we expect people to speak German, well, then there is a very limited talent pool also, because for us, if we put ourselves in the situation to take up another job abroad in order to learn the language, well, so I found it was really, really tricky, and I see that language actually is many times the problem here. A question with the that came here through the chat. A question for the preparation and also the language. So, how much time should one? What's the timeline there? How much time should one keep in mind or save basically for the entire process, from submitting the documents, getting maybe a slot for a language course, and how long does that take? Of course, I guess depends on the level of the language already, but how long does the entire process take? Is it a few weeks, a few months, or should one consider even 1 to 2 years?
Yeah, no, it's rather a few months. So we say at least 6 months, because also, of course, depending on the level of language knowledge where you start. But if you start at like A1, like no German knowledge, then I think in most cases it's at least 6 months, rather 9 months maybe, for the whole process, because we do have a few weeks that the recognition process of the diploma is going to take. Of course, that's done like at the same time. You can already start the German course and have your diploma recognized. But then also until you have the first interviews and the whole visa process. So we say all in all, it's yeah, more or less 6 to 9 months.
Okay.
Which is also a question of expectation management towards the companies, of course, because they, you know, they can say, oh, I need someone today, and the person is going to come to, tomorrow. So it's really also for them a question of expectation management. It just takes some time.
And so that happened to you as well, that the companies reach out, well, we need someone, of course, as soon as possible? Or is it really that they also understand, well, we have this far-sighted approach, we need something in near future, but let's get started. So then there will be a good influx of really educated and well-prepared workers for them.
Yeah, I mean, of course, that does happen, but I think like most companies who really look into our project soon realize that you just need, you need to wait a few months because it's just not possible to have someone come here, learn German, do the whole immigration process, and be there in like 2 weeks. It's just something, not possible.
Of course. Now to all the participants, please put your questions in the chat. Now is the last time, so we're about to round off here. But we talked a little about the different challenges that are there. So language and the recognition of the diplomas, is that those the two main challenges, or what would you say are the main challenges? And basically the findings of you said it's a pilot. You've recently started that project, right? So what are the main challenges here?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the pandemic has made it harder to recruit. And a lot of companies in Germany had their focus on other things. But I think it's starting now that we're really looking more into recruitment again. So that was in the beginning was a bit of a challenge to actually find companies who want to make this recruitment process. And I think some companies do have a lot of experience with international labor forces, but others just don't, and it's a bit harder to really have access to those companies. But I think really the main challenges is the difference of the educational systems. So sometimes the system of the vocational training. But I think language really is the main key point.
Okay, really interesting. And what are the like the numbers that you are looking into now? You've just started, so I guess you work also in batches, or is it an ongoing process? And what are the numbers that you are expecting to, let's say, facilitate and bring from India to Germany through your program?
Really, it's a continuous process, and as I said, we have 3 countries we are recruiting in. And so actually the aim of the project or the approach is not on numbers. It's more on really testing and implementing a process to realize the German Skilled Migration Act. So really our focus is not on numbers, but the numbers we have been given by the German Federal Ministry is 300 people that should come to Germany via the program within the time the program is running, which is until 2023. So that's the number, 300 skilled labor force from these 3 countries, so that we don't really have like a number which is kind of reserved to India. It really depends on who we are finding and especially what the needs of the German companies are, which we have to address.
Okay, really interesting. Of course, we are convinced that most of the 300 will be Indians after all. Okay, one last question from my side, or what would be your one message to, on the one hand, the job seekers, and one message from your side to the recruiters?
To job seekers, I would say, I think you are wanted on the German labor market. And it's important to find partners in the process of migration to really make Germany the new home. And to recruiters, I would say, I really think it's time to try out new ways of recruiting. And it's good to be one of the pioneers who really look into true integration of skilled labor forces in Germany.
Great. Thank you so much. I think that was really interesting to have you introduce that project and also present these first insights that you have and the experience, the findings that you have made through it. I think it's really, really important to have projects and programs like this. So it's great to see that there are also initiatives to react to the new policies. So Anine, thank you very, very much for these insights.